Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'm very happy to welcome our Prime Minister Kaja Kallas at the Estonian Business School. Welcome back. We're certainly living in very difficult and uncertain times. A lot of assumptions, conventional wisdoms have been turned upside down in the recent months. And in this context, I think it has been really encouraging to see that our Prime Minister Kaja Kallas has shown such a courage and such a leadership in tackling some of the most difficult issues that we are facing right now. Estonia has pulled above its weight, not just in giving very pragmatic, tremendous assistance to Ukraine, but we also have taken a very sort of principled stance on very, very complex and difficult issues. And that's something that I really appreciate. And I think we here all at the Estonian Business School are very proud of you. And in general, we're very, very proud of you for your achievements, particularly having studied here at the Executive MBA program for a while and also teaching as a visiting lecturer. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion. And now I would like to give floor to our main players, our main actors, Lukas and Silver, who will take over, and looking forward to your questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. First off, really appreciate everyone coming out. We're very excited, as we all know, to welcome the Prime Minister. To begin, my name is Lucas, joined with Silver. Silver is in his master's degree right up here at the Estonian Business School. I'm in my undergraduate studies. I was asked to kind of give a background on why we're holding this event and the purposes of the event. So I come from Canada. I'm here on Erasmus at the Estonian Business School. And one thing that we do special in Canada is that we hope to invite inspirational Canadians who've impacted both Canada and the world in their career back to campus, if they're an alumni from my university, to speak about their career and how they did it. And so in regards to Kaja and your career as Prime Minister, we hope to do the same and especially express both your impact and what your vision is for Estonia here today. So on that note, we are more than pleased to welcome the Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So the way we're going to kick off today is we're going to have a moderated discussion for about the first 45 minutes. And then the last 15 minutes we'll reserve for public Q&A with the audience. We have a volunteer with the microphone, and we'll begin and pass it around. And you can save all your questions for the end. So to begin, we're going to talk about your career a little bit. And more importantly, kind of what led you to where you are right now. And so we're going to go way back, and one thing I really wanted to start off with in researching you and yourself and both your family is that, well, your family's history is deeply connected to Estonia, and your great-grandfather, of course, Edward Alver, was one of the founders of Estonia, 1918. And your father served as Prime Minister, of course. In addition, your mother and a grandmother were deported to Siberia long ago. And so maybe share a little bit about what your early life was growing up and all the way to about by the time you reached university.
Okay. Well, I was born during Soviet times, and that makes me, I think, a lucky generation, meaning that compared to my grandparents, I'm of the lucky generation who didn't have anything. And then we have everything. Whereas my grandparents were from that generation where they had everything. They had the freedom, they had the free country, they had the choices, they had, good economy, jobs, everything. And then everything was taken from them. And I remember when I was almost 9 or 10 or something, when you're sick and your grandma is with you, then she was telling me all those stories about, the golden Estonian times. And I particularly remember one story where she was telling that because she spoke well German. So she saw in a newspaper advertisement that one Finnish family in Finland is looking for a governor, so a teacher that could teach the children German language. And she applied and she got the job. So she went to Finland to work for this family. And as this family, the head of the family was a captain on a ship. So they took the whole family, including my grandmother, to England by ship. And I was like, I was Soviet kid, so we didn't have, I mean, you couldn't get out of Soviet Union. You had to have, invitation. You had to have a foreign passport. It was totally impossible. And she was telling me this story, and I was like, go on. I mean, this is not possible. Don't tell me these fairy tales. I don't believe you. And why I'm telling this is that I just so much remembered this, and I thought that this is something great. And when I was a member of European Parliament, traveling sometimes 2-3 times a week to a foreign country, how normal this all is and how impossible it felt for me as a Soviet child. So I think this describes me that I'm of the lucky generation who understands what it is to live without freedom, because they say that you only understand freedom when it's taken from you. But I know because we didn't have anything, and I'm not taking this for granted. And I think this is very important. People, even 3 years, 5 years younger than me, they don't remember the Soviet times. So they are like normal Central Europeans or young people from a free world, which take also freedom for granted. And going to the university times, then, when I graduated high school, then of course the question is that who do we want to become? And I was like, oh, okay, university. So there were exams, and I was like, okay, where there is no mathematics exam, okay, law. I'll take law, and I went to law. But there was also one thing that was very important for me at the time, was that because my father was a politician, my brother was economic or like in financial sphere. My mother is a doctor, and I so much wanted to be myself, not to be compared to anybody else. So it's like I'm choosing something that I don't have in my family, so they will never ever compare me to my brother, my mother, or my father. How well did I do? Then after 14 years of being a lawyer, a partner in 2 biggest law firms, I still went into politics. I don't think maybe it's something in the blood that you really can't fight.
So you covered the whole transition from your time in college too, which for a lot of us resonate. Choosing the course without math, that's what a lot of us are guilty to as well, myself included. And you mentioned you joined partner at a law firm later, but then you did a little pivot and you kind of followed your recent family's footsteps into politics. Maybe touch on this time of your life a little bit more, and why did you choose to go into politics?
Again, I started, that was fascinating time because when I went to, I graduated high school in 95. We got our independence back in 91. So when I was in university, everything was new. You can't really imagine, in the Soviet times, you didn't have private ownership. So you didn't have private law or civil law or anything of a sort. You didn't have business law, and you didn't have clients. You didn't have markets. You didn't have capitalism, for that matter. So when I went to law school, university in Tartu, then I'm quite competitive in my nature. So I was like, all these people, if they all graduate, I mean, I'm gonna be competing with all of them. So I better start fast. So I went to work first year in my university already, and I went to a law firm, which at the time, the clients were young. The lawyers were extremely young. I mean, I was 18 when I started, but and the market was young. The country was young again, which meant that a lot was forgiven. And we learned a lot. We had huge deals, like huge privatization of companies. And by the time I actually graduated from law school, I was very, very experienced lawyer, and I immediately made a bar exam and worked in very big cases, privatization of big companies that are functioning even now, so starting young meant that I became a partner in a law firm when I was 27, then I will skip some parts of it, which is related to maybe some issues being a woman. Okay, I can't skip that part. Otherwise, you don't understand my cryptic language. But anyway, so I was partner at 27, and I was the first female a partner in a big law firm. It was the second biggest law firm in Estonia at the time, and it was interesting when we had the new partnership agreement negotiations. And then, I get the tables where there are the targets, what is the turnover that is expected from you, and then your shares. And I was like, I'm expected to earn like 8 million, but my share is 5%, whereas my male colleague is 1.5 million target and 12%. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not that good in math, but I certainly don't understand the logic of this. And then the lead partner said that, but you are a woman. And you're already a partner, you're 27. I said that, does the money I bring in somehow, is that with a female coefficient, or is that somehow, less valuable than the money that the male colleagues are bringing in? And then I got an answer that, the target, you're already earning 5 million. So the target would be, too small for you. I don't have a problem with the target. I have a problem with the shareholding. And so I said that, please, correct this, otherwise I will leave. And I went to vacation. I took 3 weeks. I came back and asked, what is the is there a correction done? But there wasn't. So my the biggest partner thought that I'm bluffing, because he said that you're already earning, you're already a partner, first female partner ever. Where do you go? You're going to lose it all. But I said that I know what I'm worth, and I'm gonna leave with 0. I went to another law firm. The lesson, actually, and this is for all the ladies, the lesson I learned from there is that never fight alone, because I had other male colleagues that were very good colleagues of mine, and I only had the discussion with the leading partner, and didn't really talk to my other colleagues that I have this discussion. So the moment when I was actually already leaving because I didn't get what I asked for, everybody was so surprised, because they said that we would have supported you. You're such an asset for the company, but I was fighting alone. alone. And that was the make a mental note, never fight alone. You always have allies. You have to, talk to them and they will support you. So, probably the outcome would have been different. But that's a very long story now to the question that you had. And the question, to answer your question, is that by the time I was 33, I was already a partner in the second law firm. So I worked myself up from zero in the second law firm, currently the biggest law firm in Estonia. And I was playing golf all day. I was playing, those of you who play golf, I was playing 5 rounds in a week, which is a lot, because anyway, it's a lot, which meant that I spent a lot of time in the golf course. I had my young associates who worked for me, and never. I mean, I knew my topic, which was competition law and energy law, and not a single case really made my stomach turn. Can I do this? And I felt that I'm becoming maybe too complacent or too convenient with this. And then I had I started to write articles about different topics that I saw that might be done differently in our country, and I gave few speeches, and then some people said that haven't you thought about going into politics, because people would really, politics could benefit people like you. And I was like, no. I said no, because I will not go into the same field where my father is already, and they will always compare me to him, and I don't want the comparison. So I said no, but it made some kind of idea still start to grow in my head, and it took me 2 years from that first idea to really go into politics. And they say, I think it's the Chinese who have a proverb or saying that to understand whether you're going in the wrong or whether you are in the right path of your life, you have to make a big change.
Big 180. 180 degrees.
Yes.
Big change, yeah.
A very big change. So you understand whether it goes to the right direction or the wrong direction. You immediately feel this. And when I was a lawyer and I was already searching for something new, because nothing made my stomach turn really, nothing made me question whether can I do this really? Then I went into business, and 2 months I understood this is not for me, this is the wrong place, and I admitted I made a mistake. So I went back to law, but going to politics, I felt that I'm actually in the right place. It wasn't the wrong change, although it's sometimes difficult.
Very interesting. Pass it to Silver, and we'll kind of dive more into the European side of politics.
Yeah, let's talk about the EU. In 2014, you set your eyes on the European Parliament and won a seat. And also, while working as an MEP, you served on numerous committees, such as the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, and were a vice chair of the delegation to the EU-Ukraine Parliamentary Cooperation Committee. Could you share some of your experiences and stories while working as an MEP, and also what motivated to run in the election?
This is broadcasted somewhere, so I don't know how honest I can be. Everything can be used against you.
As much as you're comfortable.
I won't tell anyone.
Yeah. Just between
we can
two
turn
of
the
us
cameras
here, right? Well, I ran to the European to the European Parliament because it was the time when my party sort of wanted to get rid of me. But everyone who had ever gone to European Parliament was lost to Estonian politics, because it's far away and you don't know what you really do there. But I thought that fine. I might run for the European Parliament, and it was actually. It's quite hard to get elected. You have to get a lot of votes. It was only 6 mandates there. I got elected, and of course it changed my life because I had to move to another country, to another city. I went there with my 2 years old son. I didn't have any network there. I didn't have any safety net. It was, looking back, looking at the pictures of my son, I was like, I was crazy going there with a baby and traveling all the time with him all the time. But it was like part of life, and it wasn't really an issue. But I learned a lot there. And one thing I think it's very important to understand is that when you're here in your own country, then you look the world through the small prism of Estonia, and you think that everybody else, of course, knows Estonia and knows your problems and your history and everything. But then you go to the wide world, and it turns out that other countries have different histories. They have different attitudes, opinions, and also worries that they have. So in order for others to listen to you and your problems, to understand your problems, you have to really listen to everybody else, and you have to hear about their history, their problems where they have been victimized, their scars in the history, in order to understand that. Because if you really listen, then the others will listen to you as well. The other thing I learned there was that first, I took an assistant who was French, and I also learned a lot from her because there was a lot of recommendation from Estonia to take these people to advise you there. But I said that I need a person who knows the system and who can actually advise me. I have no use for a person that I'm dragging along and who has to learn everything that I have to learn. And that was a very wise decision, because in the European Parliament, you don't only have, the level of the parliament members and their networking, but you also have the assistants, and this is extremely important. So you might have MEP, a member of European Parliament, that has very good assistants that make the MEP really stand out because of their network. And my Laurence really had a very good network and really was teaching me something culturally as well. I'm Estonian, which means that, if I send an email, I've communicated. That's it. And she's like, now we have to meet this guy. I said, I already sent an email to him. It's like, no, c'est parlement, on parle ici. You have to talk here. So we meet with this guy that I sent an email, and I thought that, the work is already done. And then I went through everything that I was writing to him, and then I got through to him, and he invited me to, Danish talk shows. So I got to explain my ideas to the Danish public. It was a Danish MEP. Now all my ideas got into those documents, and this is how it's how it's done. So it's not the Estonian way. The other thing you learn a lot about different cultures, and in Estonia or Finland, it is when we are very short, then we are very proud of ourselves that, there's a minute to say what you want to say, and I nailed it in 30 seconds. I was like, yes. But the Spanish and the Portuguese, they go on like 3 times. They say the same thing, and believe me, in the southern part, the minutes are much longer than in the northern part. But apparently, and we are like, why they are telling this like 3 times? We already heard it the first time, but they are like, she spoke so short, so she's not serious about this thing. This is not, important topic for her because she didn't stress this several times. The other culture is about thanking, which is also what we are not that good at. So I was really learning and seeing that everybody's thanking about, everything around, thank you for the excellent report and thank you for your work and everything. And so the next time I go to the meeting and I go and thank everybody. It's like everybody. So I ran out of time and I couldn't get to my point because I was thanking everybody. And then my Laurence goes like, why did you say thank you for the excellent report? It's like everybody's saying thank you for the excellent report. No, you have to listen what they say. If the work is really good, they say thank you for the excellent report, which is very rare. Then when, there's room for improvement, but clearly a person has done a lot of work, then you say thank you for the excellent work. And when the work is totally under any levels, then you say thank you for your efforts. So you start to listen this meta language, and you understand, okay, this will never go through because thank you for your efforts, right? And these things you don't know if you are not there. And of course, the last point, I'm really talking long, sorry. The last point is that I didn't really, being a new member to the European Parliament, I was not afraid of work. So I took the reports that nobody else wanted to do. And made a lot of friends with this and was not really picky. But the thing is that, of course, when I took, because others had the other strategy, they had the strategy that I only pick the things that I want to really do. But I did things that nobody else wanted to do. And when those really juicy reports came, I said that I've done everything that nobody of you wanted to do, and I want to do this one. So everybody's like, yeah, okay, you've earned this one. So I got to do the things that were really juicy. And of course, they were much related to digital part. And this is also a lesson that I would give to you as well, is that everybody has their strengths and weaknesses as a country as well as a person. So there's always some point in strengthening your strengths, because you might become number one in that. Whereas you might overcome your weaknesses, but they are still your weaknesses, and you will never become number one in the world. So with the digital part, it was also something that I learned that we don't really understand here, being present here, because we take it all for granted. The digital part, e-governance, e-taxation, you name it. And then you go there and you get this, that you're from Estonia, right? see, my computer doesn't work. So like this is something that relates to the image of your country. So I immediately figured this out, that I have to make this my strength as well. So I was working on the digital part, and so it went that I became. They're known for these things. Digital queen, like they said. My brother was laughing so hard, saying that if they would only know how analog you really are, but don't tell anybody.
When continuing with other strengths that Estonia has, the events of the recent conflict with Russia and Ukraine has led Estonia to lead the way in terms of setting an example for other European nations, whether this be through the no-fly zone or your recent opinion editorial that was published in the New York Times. How do you view Estonia's role, being a small country population-wise, in terms of creating an influence for other global nations on dealing with the ongoing conflict?
Yes, this is somehow. This is very difficult times that we are living through, and I think what gives us the credibility is that we have been always saying the things that we are saying now and what we are seeing happening now. So it clicked some minds that we haven't listened to them before, but maybe we should this time, because they were right before. And that's why I think we are listened to. What gives us the credibility is our history, and that we are neighboring Russia, and we know and we see how they act and have been acting all the time, and this gives us the credibility in this regard. Of course, before we were considered to be somewhat like Russophobes, saying all those things, but pointing out that these things have happened in the history, and we know our neighbor. We know our neighbor, and we have known our neighbor for long, and our neighbor hasn't really changed. But what my colleagues from other European countries, or not even colleagues, but the public opinion also in other countries doesn't really understand, is that they are looking Putin's actions in somewhat, this democratic bubble. I remember I had some discussions with my European colleagues who were explaining to me that, but before the war happened, it was like, yeah, but no way he's taking this up, because it's going to cost him a lot, and his people don't understand. It's like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care because it's a dictatorship. It's not a democracy. I mean, I would be, taken responsible for my decisions, and next elections come and people say that you took the wrong decisions, and now there's some time for somebody else because we don't trust you anymore. Whereas he doesn't have the elections, and that's why he's not thinking this way. And I've even given some of my colleagues, not even in Europe, but wider, gift, which is a book called Dictator's Handbook. No, literally. Alistair Smith is one author, and the other is a very complicated name that I forget, but two authors. Dictator's Handbook. And there it is very well written how they think. I mean, for dictator, what is important? Important is to keep the cronies happy around you and keep the army and the power structures happy, because they are fighting for you. So pay them well and don't care about the people, because they keep you in power. And the other thing is that in that book there's the reference to wars as well, and I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Black Hawk Down. I didn't before I read the book, so I watched the movie as well. So in that book, the authors are referring to this movie, saying that in democracies, no soldier is left behind. Because of the soldiers' mothers and everything, nobody's left behind. So they go and try to get this one person who is left behind, and then they lose a lot. Whereas in a dictatorship, the soldiers are not really counted because the soldiers' mothers are not the voice to be taken into account. So I think that's why that we are pointing out those things that we. Have knowledge of due to our history that we are also listened to this time.
A lot of great perspectives there, especially helpful for us to understand what you're thinking right now as Prime Minister and so forth. We're going to kind of ask the question now. So in 2017, you talked about your time as in European politics, and you, of course, came back to Estonia. Of course, you joined the Reform Party, and then maybe eventually you thought, maybe I could follow my father's footsteps. And then, of course, in 2021, you joined as Prime Minister. Walk us through around this time as far as how you became Prime Minister and maybe the events that followed afterwards.
Well, there were elections, which I won in 2019. And that was interesting because there are, well, I already feel that I'm going to be very long answering this one. So how much time you have? No, I tried to be shorter. But in 2019, 2018, I was elected as the chairwoman of my party. And 2019 we had the elections, and it was uphill all the time. I mean, the elections was really, really hard, and I was questioned all the time. I was the only female leader of a party, and when I went to talk to people, like a crowd, I always got the questions: are you qualified to be a prime minister? And I was like, I took all the CVs of male party leaders whom I was competing with. I mean, I've been 14 years as a lawyer, a partner in a law firm, so private practice. I've been a member of the Estonian Parliament, chairing the Economic Affairs Committee. I've been a member of the European Parliament for 4 years. And all the languages I speak, all the education I have. And then I took the CVs of the male candidates that I was competing with. And, there was a party leader whose first job was a member of parliament. First job. Second was minister. That's it. And you say that he's more competent than me, he has no more experience than me. I mean, this is not fair. So it was more like I felt all the time that, even people who supported me or my party, they said that there's something wrong with you. I mean, you don't really fit. There's something wrong with you. Cut your hair, wear trousers, speak with a lower voice. All these things, which I didn't do. Because I'm me, and I still want to be me. Tony Blair has written a good book called The Journey, where he says politicians are not actors. If you try to be somebody else, people will tell that you are not genuine or sincere, and don't bother. So I thought that I am as I am, and my party won the elections. I got the most votes. I got personally more votes than all of the male party leaders together. And next time or next day after the elections, not even the next day, but the week from the elections, where I tried to put together a coalition government, tried to invite everybody to form a government, except for the far-right party. Of course, now I know that they already had the deal together immediately, but then I didn't know, and actually all the newspapers were saying that of course she couldn't do it. I mean, she failed again. So this is an uphill struggle all the time, and I didn't get to form a government in 2019. Although I won the elections. And so it was, and looking back, I don't regret it. I became the leader of the opposition, and also I say that our team, my party group, we have such a good team in the parliament, and as we were in the opposition, I think we grew together as a team, and that was not bad. So we took the best out of it, and we got to form a government in 2021.
In January.
In January 2021. That was it, So now it is a year and a bit more, one crisis after another, it seems much longer. Actually, time is a very relative element, I would say. As so much is going on, the time feels so much longer than it actually is. And I have to correct myself, or actually my team corrects me all the time when I say that, this was a week ago. They said, no, that was 2 days ago. And it's like, how do I always make these mistakes? But it is normal, so I try not to use time references anymore because I might make a mistake there.
It's very cool to hear the examples you displayed when you're in your law practice, the sexism you faced during the office, and perhaps even the election, and then you, of course, becoming in Estonian history, first female prime minister. Looking back on it, it's a very interesting story. I'm going to segue into, of course, you alluded to the computer example with your European politic colleague, where they point to a computer and then say, hey, you're Estonian, come on over. Estonian has a brand of being an EU nation, and there's a lot of items that you can touch on that give it such brand. But an interesting part is that there's a 3-decade history where Estonia has been independent from the Soviet Union. What do you think has led Estonia to have the perception among all the other European neighbors to be such a digital revolutionary nation? And what are you thinking of as Prime Minister to continue to lead such an ambition?
Well, it was in 2000 when we introduced the e-identities of people. So in 2000, in some European countries, they didn't have internet in all the computers yet. So the question was, why did we do it at that time already?
And more so, I guess, what are you thinking about right now to continue to lead the change?
Yeah. Yes, it becomes more and more difficult. I guess, One is that we have the well-known brand, but it doesn't, we can't rest on the laurels because everybody else does it as well, and we have to constantly reinvent, reinvest, try to be better and compete. But what I mean is that you can. Building on your strengths makes you stronger, and you have to keep the strengths that you already have. Being a small country, our economy can be based, or economy in general can be based on three things. One is cheap labor, second is natural resources, and the third is technology and smart people. So we are not the cheap labor economy anymore. We don't have natural resources, or we don't want to, use them all. So the only choice for us is to have this smart economy. And I think that being this digital nation, we also have to build to be this green nation. And these two items go together hand in hand, actually. Being more effective, using the digital tools that we have could benefit our economy and our energy economy, I would say economy wider, in a wider aspect as well, to make those two go together. So I think being smarter in terms of economy is a goal that we all have to strive for. And what actually COVID made a big turn in our economy. We have been trying to be, economy where you have the high-end, high salary, high in the value chain. And COVID actually brought that. Of course, one issue was that the tourism sector totally went down, but the part of the IT sector also grew a lot. So that part hasn't gone anywhere. Of course, we have to understand and see what this war is really, what kind of effects it's having on our economy, and we are trying to, or we have to fight to make it clear for all the investors that it's safe here. I bring you this example. I was in Norway on a state visit together with our businesses, and I gave a lot of interviews, and I remember one Norwegian journalist asked me that, so are you afraid in Estonia? And I asked back, are you afraid in Norway? No, why? Because you have border with Russia. You have border with Russia. You are in NATO. We are in NATO. So if you're not afraid, we are not afraid as well. But we have to talk about this because for some investors, it still is that you are in that same corner. The other thing that I often use is saying that, Berlin is exactly the same amount of kilometers from Kiev than Tallinn is. So you are all in the same area and also affected by this. So if your economy is not affected, ours shouldn't be as well.
Before we get to the questions from the public, I'd still like to ask you, what is on your mind lately as a prime minister?
Says a lot.
I just sit and think that, what could we do? There's lots on my mind, and the thing that is on my mind is the war, of course, and how to end this war. What more can we do to end this war? What kind of implications it has to us? What can we do? And this takes all my thoughts really. So not really try to make room for everything else. Try to make room for the green transition, for example, and I make it with really. I mean, my team can tell that to fit this into my calendar is very difficult. But yeah, I can't say that that my thoughts are not somehow evolving around what is going on right now.
A lot of great points there. We're going to transition now to the public Q&A. I believe we have a volunteer with a microphone who's going to be walking around and giving it to an individual if they have a question. So I'll give kind of everyone an opportunity right now. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we can kind of go and ask each other after each question.
I think I was fast.
There you go. Perfect.
So I have this question because as an international student, you are an ex-student with EBS and also hold an honor designation with Estonia. As an international student, what do you think, how we can contribute to the Estonian society?
Yes, thank you. I believe that diversity is... in the diversity, there's a lot of value because we have different perspectives and also different experiences, which we can learn from each other. Being part of the society, I mean, everybody brings something on board to make it richer. And that is, I guess, something that you can do being here, a international student, bringing your experience, your ideas on board that we haven't thought about. Being a small country, being in the geographical position where we are, I mean, we could learn from others. And what I said about European Parliament and what I learned from there is actually also vice versa. When you come here, I think this experience comes here, and all the others also have something to learn from you and to take on board. This makes us all richer. I mean, something that I'm really fascinated is that and this is maybe sounds stupid, but I'm fascinated how much we don't really know. I mean, right now I don't have much reading time compared to my before times, but I try to read something from cultures that I don't know nothing of, which is so fascinating because you understand how much you don't know about the world, and how much is there how much more is there to learn about. Yes.
Awesome. Anyone else? Just go ahead and raise your hand. Perfectly over there.
Hi. You said two things to take with us today. Never fight alone and strengthen your strengths. Is there a third lesson we as women who want to be aspiring leaders can take with us today?
Never fight alone also means that this is when you go into fight. But one other, and this is not even for only women, but for everybody, one lesson or very important thing that I always keep in mind is that they say that you meet people 2 times in life. One time when you go up the hill, and the other time when you go down the hill. If you treat people bad when you go up the hill, it's gonna turn on you when you go down the hill. And this means that treat everybody with respect, and you never know. I mean, I have had acquaintances who very much pick, I only talk to those people who are useful to me. Never make that mistake, because all the people are very valuable, and I mean, I have had so many experiences that come back to me after years. I bring you this kind of example. I mean, I could bring many examples, but just one that came to my mind, which is that when my brother and me, we were looking for a summer cottage, and we found a very nice house, and tried to test it whether we can rent it, and the owner said that, or the representative of the owner said that no, they are not renting it, they only want to sell. And so okay, very sad, and then I get the call some later week, and I get the call from this agent who says that I said that you are looking for this, and then it turned out that the owners of this cottage were a young couple who moved to where I was living when I was a teenager, and I didn't remember that, but they were a young married couple. They moved to the neighborhood, and I, as a teenager, came to them. So I mean, this is how it is. So how can I help? I mean, I can introduce you to everybody, and so they remembered this, so that it was a lot of help to them, although I didn't remember about this, and so it was their turn to return a favor. Maybe I have other examples like this. So it always pays off to be nice to people, and never think that you're only nice to those people who could be useful in your career, because you never really know. And by the way, I have been invited to all kinds of interesting seminars, and there's one organized by Peter Thiel and his friends. They organize this in a way that they only invite the people from the world that they want to invite. So there are like 130 people all over the world, and there are also people who are helping around, and they have a rule there which all those participants don't really know, that all these assistants have the right to pick one person who is a jerk and never gets to be invited back, because if you're a jerk to those people, even if you're nice to those important people, then it really tells who you are as a person. So never be that jerk.
That's a great response. We have time for one more question if anyone has an. Pass the mic right there. Perfect.
Thank you. Though even we are in this business school education environment, but my question is, would you like to recommend youngsters or young generation to participate in politics and consider this as a career? And if yes, why this is so important? And if you also have some suggestions, if some of us do consider that.
First, I mean, what is politics? Politics is discussion or debate about how we run the society. So everybody who says anything about this is somehow participating in politics. But of course, taking part of elections is extremely important. Becoming a politician is another issue, and I would say my one recommendation is learn something, start something that is not your first thing is politics. I mean, and why this is important learn a profession, start a company, do something in the private sector or public sector. Why this is important is that in politics, you are the one who is deciding over the rules that the societies run. When you haven't really had, your hands on something, then you don't really know how hard it is to earn money in the real world, if I might say so. So before going into deciding how the society should be run, you should also have something experience from some kind of sector. And why it is also important, it is because in politics, when it is a democracy, you get to be voted or elected out sooner or later. Sooner or later, people will get tired of you. There will be new people, and they will vote for them and not for you. So if you are, this is the only thing you know. If I don't get elected, then I'm going to die. And this is a very bad perspective, because then you are making decisions based on not your principles, but because you want to get elected again. And this is extremely hard, because in politics you actually have to make some really tough decisions. And very often you know more than the public does. So if you see in the newspapers all the op-eds saying that you should do this and that, and if you try to please everybody going that direction, which is very populistic, whereas you know that it's the wrong direction, then you might be very popular, but you do the wrong thing for the country. And I think it was Plato who said that the role of the leaders or the governors is also to educate the people. So not only that you're making the decisions, which are sometimes hard, but you also have to educate why these are the right decisions. And having a core, having principles makes those decisions easier, and having a back door. I mean, I could always go back to lawyering. I don't have to do this. Gives me freedom to, do what I think it's right.
A lot of great responses there. A lot of great stuff for us to take away. On that note, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, want to give a round of applause for Prime Minister Kaja Kallas. I think we have a member of the Student Council coming up. So on behalf of the Estonian Business School, we'd love to present you with, I believe this is a scarf, correct? EBS branded scarf. And it's a shame we're done winter, but next winter you can wear this.
Well, it comes back. I mean, we have a saying regarding spring, that the spring has the eyes of the summer, but the teeth of the winter.
Great quote to leave off on, everyone. So thank you very much. Cool. Awesome. Good stuff.